Now he's probably the most powerful general that the Air Force has ever seen. He reports directly to the Deputy Secretary of Defense. He has a handful of the most important and most well-funded programs that the Air Force has ever had. So where'd they all go? All those PEOs. The Air Force has finally rolled out its new pathway, the PAE. So before, all the services had program executive officers or PEOs, and they were responsible for the spend of the military. They were responsible for cost schedule performance. They were responsible for executing the money that Congress would appropriate to go do specific programs of record. Each PEO had their portfolio. Their portfolios were organized around weapon system capabilities, a variety of things they would organize their PEOs around. But that structure is starting to change. You see it happening in the Army. It's certainly happening in the Air Force. They are moving to portfolio acquisition executives, PAEs. Now, there's going to be, I think, 27 of them in the Air Force, and it's going to change the way the org charts work. It's going to change the way they can move money inside their portfolios. But there's actually something more important happening than the shift from PEO to PAE. You have these DRPMs, or direct reporting program managers. There's only two in the entire military. One of them's in the Air Force. It's General Dale White. I actually used to work with Lieutenant Colonel and Colonel White when he was at the Long Range Strike Bomber, the precursor to B-21, back in the early 2010, 2012 range. I can tell you, he's a smart guy. We all knew he was going to be a general. Now he's probably the most powerful general that the Air Force has ever seen from an acquisition perspective. He has been in multiple different PEOs in his career, but now he's this DRPM, or direct reporting program manager. That means he reports directly to the Deputy Secretary of Defense. In this case, that's the Honorable Stephen Feinberg. Very, very smart guy. This guy is like a billionaire. He doesn't need to be in the administration because he believes the military is a huge business that we need to get correct. Feinberg has run, I think it's like a hedge fund or venture capital fund, where he goes out and kind of reshapes companies that are, going down the wrong path, and he's made a ton of money over his career. He doesn't need to be doing this. I think the military is lucky to have someone with his kind of background in the DepSecDef role. And as a result, he's taken a critical interest in our most important weapon systems. So he created these DRPMs where they are a direct report to him. So these direct report program managers go outside of the service secretary chain. So skipping over the Air Force Secretary in General White's case, going directly to the Deputy Secretary of Defense for all accountability, for updates, for everything. And inside his portfolio, he has a handful of the most important and most well-funded programs that the Air Force has ever had. One of them is the Sentinel ICBM program. That is one leg of our nuclear triad. It handles all of our ground activity with nukes, and it's a very well-funded program. That is inside that portfolio. It has the B-21 program I used to work, and another leg of our nuclear triad. It handles our air delivery of our nuclear weapon systems. And that's also a well-funded program that is working its way, into early stage production right now. It also has the F-47, the aptly named aircraft. I believe General White was actually one of the people that came up with that name back in the day. I was the first contracting officer on the NGAD program. F-47, the precursor was NGAD, Next Generation Air Dominance. And I got to work on that back in 2012. I thought that program was dead in the water under the Biden administration. It all comes full circle. Trump made it real. We got it going, and it's pretty exciting to see that we're going to have a new fighter aircraft, but that's also a well-funded program inside General White's purview as a DRPM. He also has collaborative combat aircraft. This is an aircraft program that has effectively a pilot in the center with controlling a bunch of drones around it. So it's collaborative combat aircraft. They're flying together. All these programs have various levels of classification that are surrounding them. So nothing I'm saying here is going to violate any of that, but know that this is where a lot of the money is. There's also the reported Doomsday airplane, a plane that will fly around continuously and not land, so we can control battle ops from the air if need be. I actually have to go visit this airplane in Wichita, which was really cool. It's being prepped right now. I believe that's going to be in his portfolio too. Different reporting on that. But needless to say, General White is by far the most powerful acquisition general we've ever had in the modern era. Really cool to see the authorities he'll have. He can cut through the red tape. He's already exercising some of these authorities. One of the key enabling technologies or initiatives initiatives that we've seen come out in the last, decade and a half, the onslaught of open architecture capabilities, open architecture standards. Open architecture is one of those key enablers that allows us to work legacy systems and incorporate the new without tremendous cost to re-system engineer the entire airplane. So there's a standard that I worked on. It's the baseline standard for the B-21. It's now one of the standards for most of our aircraft, called the Open Architecture Management Standard, so OMS. And it's a really important standard. It allows you to pretty much plug and play any type of subsystem on any type of aircraft, as long as that aircraft is OMS compliant. So it's the Open Mission System Standard. Really important. And it's always been at a controlled unclassified or a collateral type of security class, where it wasn't easily shared with our partners. Well, in General White's DERPM role, he reached out and said, look, we're going to publish an unclassified version of this so that our partners can leverage it. What most people don't realize is that our NATO partners make up a whole bunch of acquisition spend, and they are keeping our production lines open. They're doing a whole bunch of stuff with us in concert in our military operations. Giving them access to this standard and allowing them to develop against the standard makes the entire NATO alliance stronger, because they're able to now develop against a common standard, so that, say someone makes something really great in Great Britain, that thing could be plug and played on one of our aircraft in the event we need to have that unique capability that they invent it one day. It's just a really good way to be able to leverage across different platforms and standards. And the fact that our partners now have access to it, that's like the perfect example of what a DERPM can do. Cuts through the red tape, allows the right decision to be made, and the buck stops with him. So you see this transition happening in the Air Force. I'm encouraged by it. I'm very curious to see how it impacts the money side of the house. So your normal PEO back in the day would have below the threshold reprogramming authority. This was a PEO's ability to take $20 million or less that was appropriated by Congress to do thing A and move that money to go do thing B if the PEO deemed it to be a higher priority, without needing to go get congressional approval to do so. This is really interesting because Congress controls the purse strings, and they want us to spend money the way they want money spent. They tell us how to spend the money, and they have a whole bunch of opinions about how the money should be spent. So it's a very coveted and trusted authority that the PEOs had to be able to move money across their portfolio and spend it where they believe the highest priority was. That was a level of trust that Congress gave them to execute that discretion. We'll see what that means for the DERPM, or the Direct Reporting Program Manager. Can he move money between PAEs? So, I talked about B-21 is in its own PAE. Sentinel is inside its own PAE, as is Collaborative Combat Aircraft and F-47. They're in their own PAE. So these portfolio or acquisition executives that control these platforms still probably maintain that $20 million threshold to move money inside the portfolio. But now that they report up to this DERPM, or this Direct Reporting Program Manager in General White, does he have the ability to move money from Sentinel over to F-47, jumping outside of the normal structure? That would be very interesting to see if it plays out that way. So far, I haven't seen anything like that happen, and we haven't really had a proper budget to even evaluate, are these things happening? But the budget passed, a few weeks ago, and we're going to see this year if General White has a top priority and needs to move money quickly, is he going to jump in there and move money across PAEs now? And did Congress even give him that approval? We'll see. It's going to be very interesting to watch, but I'm encouraged by the direction the Air Force is going. I think there needs to be more accountability at the top. General White's the perfect guy to do that. Like I said, I got to work with him for a short period of time in my career, and to see him be the top most authority, the most impact that he can have, the most powerful acquisition general that the Air Force has had in recent memory, pretty awesome. So understand the changes, they're coming. And if you like what you heard today, please like, subscribe, hit us up on Instagram, or follow me on YouTube. Have a great day. Bye.